Hey friends, Doug with D&E in the garage. I'm out here doing some work at the house today, and I'm taking a little break because it's very warm today. And it occurred to me it's been a long time since we had a chat, since we just sat down and did the podcast thing. So I've been working on something in my head recently. I think it's time to share it with y'all. What I want to do today is sort of a public service announcement, sort of a guide for some new Jeepers to help you avoid some of the pitfalls that we all make. Here's the backstory on it. I spent a lot of time on Jeep Forum, a ton of time, and you always see the same questions come up every few weeks. I just bought a WJ, you know, I'm trying to get ready to go off-road, what should I do to it? And inevitably you get these old timers giving this really good advice, and then 3 days later you find out that the kid you know, did the exact opposite basically. And so what I want to do is try to give some awareness to mods that are over, or mods that never were in the first place, mods that are going to waste your money. Let me give a disclaimer before we go any further. All right, there are two people that this conversation is not going to be for. This conversation is not for guys like Matt over at Bleep and Jeep who are building purpose-built 40-inch tire rock bouncers, all right? You know, guys who can trail their rig to the trail and then bring it back. This isn't for you guys. This also is not for mall crawlers, people who just are doing stuff to the Jeep. They have extra money, they have whoever's money, and they just like throwing stuff at their vehicle to make it look a certain way. This conversation's not for you either. This conversation, this list of useless mods, this little bit of knowledge is for the guys who are like me. All right, you have a limited budget, you have limited resources, you have limited time. Your Jeep needs to be able to get you to work Monday through Friday, but then from Friday night to Sunday, you want to be able to maybe take it off road, cash in on that 4x4 legacy that those 4 letters on the front of the hood there promise. This conversation's for you guys. All right? I want to help. I want to keep you from wasting your money. I want to save you some of the pain that I personally have gone through. I mean, most of the things I'm going to talk about here, I have done myself. They're mistakes I have made, and I wish somebody had told me so I could have avoided them. A mod that is completely useless, especially on a 4-liter Jeep, is an exhaust. All right, let me explain. I have modded or tuned several 4-liters. I've tuned them for miles per gallon. I had a WJ that would get 25 on the highway. I've tuned them for low-end torque, for towing, and I have learned that to unlock any gains from a 4-liter, you need to, at minimum, do all of the following. Yes, you need to put an exhaust in. You need to open up the air a little bit, and I'll get to that more in a minute. You need to open up your intake, get a bigger throttle body usually. A throttle body spacer is not the same thing. You want to get the actual bigger throttle body that someone has hogged out there. You need to do 4-port injectors, all right? If you don't know about 4-port injectors on a 4-liter, you need to Google it. You get them out of like an SVT Mustang or an SRT Neon, and they improve the spray, much more efficient for the 4-liter. Once you've done those things, open up the exhaust, open up the intake, maybe try to get some cooler air to the engine if you can, and then get the 4-port injectors. Then you will start seeing some gains in throttle response, in low-end power, and miles per gallon on the highway. A little bit, as much as a 4-liter ever will. All right. Here's the thing about this. What does everybody do? Right? You get your new WJ. The first thing you do is you cut the exhaust right before that resonator, because we don't have any on the 4-liter. We don't have any O2 sensors behind that resonator, so you're good. And then you run 2.5 straight pipe back to a 2.5 in, 2.5 out, off-the-shelf thrush muffler, right? And it sounds cool, and you've made it better, right? Wrong, in a big way, all right? Here's a little secret about the 4-liter, and a lot of engines. They need back pressure to create low-end torque and throttle response. You need some back pressure in your exhaust helping to push those valves back open, all right? When you cut that resonator out and then put a super high flow 2.5-inch exhaust all the way back on your Jeep, on your 4-liter, what you've done is remove all that back pressure. So you've actually neutered your engine. All right, you no longer have any throttle response, any bottom end torque, and since the 4-liters don't have any top end anyway, your motor's just, it's going to be laggy. It's going to be even slower than it already was, and it was slow to begin with. All right, so what you need to do is go ahead and get maybe a high flow resonator. That's what I have in my WJ, and then you know, a high flow muffler, and then you will retain some of that back pressure so that you can keep your low end, but on the highway it can open up and breathe. Here's another problem with just doing an exhaust on a 4-liter. 4 liters don't sound good with an exhaust. I know that's going to be hard to hear, and I know you're going to disagree with me, but it's the truth. All right, everybody seems to think that when you go get that MagnaFlow off-the-shelf muffler, your 4 liter is going to sound like a 351 for some reason. It's not. Do you know what aftermarket exhaust makes a 4 liter sound like? Broken. It sounds broken. And if you are installing it the way I just described, cutting out resonators and all that, it actually is broken. So now you're riding around sounding broken. It actually is broken, and you're out, what, 60, 100 bucks? Either leave the exhaust as it is or do it right. Do yourself that favor. Next thing that is a totally useless mod is brush guards. Now, I don't have a high opinion of those front, like ARB style brush guard bumpers, but I'm gonna leave them alone right now. I suppose they have their merits, even though I think they're a little clumsy. What I wanna talk about are those ones that go over taillights. What it is this metal cage that mounts to your Jeep, and it covers your taillight. And the logic is, well, if I'm off-road and I bump a tree or rock or whatever, the plastic or glass light, not glass, all plastic, right? Yeah. Plastic is going to break, and this metal cage is going to protect it. That's the logic. Here's the problem with that. How are these things mounted? All right, you take your light out and they sandwich in between your plastic light and the metal of your Jeep. So if you are off-road and you touch a tree with this brush guard, it's not going to protect your light. The plastic that is essentially holding it in is just going to shatter, and instead of cracking your lens, it's going to rip the whole thing out. All right, so it actually is counterproductive for protecting your lights, and it makes it more likely to hit something off-road. Right, your Jeep's nice and sleek, so if you're rubbing up against a tree, there's a good chance you'll be fine. But now you have this big thing hanging on the back of your Jeep, and you're way more likely to hit something off-road and get it caught and rip your whole light out. Save your money. These things don't work. I don't even think they look that cool. They make your lights less effective because you can't see them. Save your money. There are much better mods you can buy. The next two that I want to talk about are the big money wasters. These are things that'll take, you know, an entire paycheck and a half, and in reality, they are dead useless on most of your Jeeps. Let's start with stingers. Those that don't know, a stinger is this big piece of metal. It's like usually 2-inch DOM steel that's welded to your bumper at like a 45-degree angle off the front of your Jeep. And here's the purpose, right? Picture this: you're out, you know, in the rocks somewhere, and you're coming down a very steep incline, all right? And all of a sudden you hit your center of gravity, and your back wheels start wanting to go, and you're about to go back over front down this hill in your Jeep. If you have nothing on the front of your Jeep, as soon as you tip that center of gravity, you're going. You know what I mean? You're gonna roll over, you're gonna crush your grill, your rad support, your hood, you're gonna land on your roof. The stinger is there to do one of a few things. Ideally, you start going, you hit your stinger, and you bounce back. Roll over averted, you're fine. Maybe you hit that stinger and it doesn't bounce you back, but it deflects you to the side, which is better. You'd rather land on the side of your vehicle than on the roof. You're not gonna crush your roof, crush your hood, crush your rad support. The third thing it may do, if your vehicle does go back over front, all right, it will protect that front part of your vehicle where your radiator is. Maybe it's tall enough that it'll protect your hood altogether. All right, if you roll over and you crush your radiator, it doesn't matter if you're able to get rolled back onto your wheels. If your radiator's, you know, pissing fluid everywhere, you're done. Your day is done. You're getting towed off the trail. That's what a stinger is for. All right. Here's the issue that I have. People are out there putting stingers, and they're not cheap. They're not inexpensive. A lot of times you have to get them special made, or you can buy them from somebody as part of a bumper, and that's $1,000 or something. But you have to ask yourself, where am I wheeling that I need this stinger? All right, and let's take it a step further. What we just said, that the stinger is there to protect your engine compartment. If you have a stinger on your Jeep before you have a cage for your cab, your priorities are completely screwed. Right? Because think about this, what you're saying then is, in a rollover, I don't care if I crush the cab and potentially injure or kill myself or the other people in my Jeep, as long as my rad support doesn't get crushed. Right? The stinger comes after the cage for the rest of your Jeep. That's just the intelligent order of operations. So if you just throw a stinger on there because you think that that's something you need, and in reality you're just daily driving around, occasionally going through some muddy fields, you probably don't need that stinger. You can get a welded bumper, you can get something with some recovery points, but the stinger is expensive, they're unnecessary, and the bigger problem, they're a liability. All right, picture this, you're just driving around. We already said this whole conversation is for people who daily drive their Jeeps or have to, you know, you're driving it here and there. Like my off-road WJ is a third vehicle for my wife and I. We don't drive it all that often, but when I do take it out, I have to drive it to whatever trail I'm going to. If you have a stinger on the front and you rear end somebody, you are destroying that car. You're breaking windows, possibly hurting people, and insurance is not going to be too happy with you. So what you need to do is step back and say, does the kind of wheeling that I do really justify a stinger? I submit, up here in the Northeast like we are, I don't think anybody here needs a stinger. There's no rocks to climb. It's all mud and woods trails. The stinger's probably a liability. You got this big thing hanging off the front, can't turn, it's getting caught on stuff. Just think it out. Think out your build and save your money. Now the next one is, it's a big one, and you might want to sit down because this is going to be real disappointing, especially if you're a Toyota guy. You see this all the time with 4Runners and Tacomas, right? Stock 4Runners and Tacomas, I should add. The snorkel, all right? The snorkel is absolutely, hands down, one of the most useless things you can put on a vehicle. Let me explain. Snorkel's there to raise up where you pull your engine air from. The idea is, say where's your air box? Maybe 3-4 feet off the ground in most Jeeps. So if you're going through 3 or 4 foot high water, there's a very good chance that your engine's going to pull in that water, and then it's game over. Your day is done. All right. So you get this snorkel that raises it up above the windshield. Now you can go through, hypothetically, 6 or 7 foot water, right? Correct? No, not even a little bit, all right? A snorkel is just one piece of a huge, arduous, labor-intensive, technical process of waterproofing your vehicle for fording water, all right? It's the literal least you can do. Think about it. Let's go through the list, all right? Anything under your hood or under your vehicle that is electrical needs to be waterproofed. That means all your sensor connections, your ECU, probably your ignition system. Maybe you need to put dielectric grease or some other way. All those things that can get water in them and fry them. TPS, if you have a 4-liter, all right, the TPS sensor, the throttle positioning sensor on the top of a 4-liter is so finicky. Do me a favor, right now, down in the squawk boxes down there, let me know if you know what I'm talking about when I say that the throttle positioning sensor on the top of a 4-liter is crazy sensitive to water. I can't tell you how many times I've just gone through puddles. Water splashes up, all of a sudden it's idling wrong, it's you know, shifting all over the place. All that stuff needs to be waterproofed before you can start going through any type of water, all right? And even worse than all the electrical connections, your differential, your transfer case, your transmission, they all have breather tubes. Your gas tank, all right, they all have breather tubes. They are hoses that are you know, connected to these things, differentials, transfer cases, that are run up through the body to about the level of where your airbox is right now. So when you put your snorkel up there, all right, if you actually try to go through any water without taking care of all this other stuff, lifting your breather lines, waterproofing all your electrical connections, waterproofing your cab, all right? If you don't have a Wrangler, that means the interior car is really not meant to get all that wet, you know? So you really need to think about this stuff. So when you see a stock 4Runner, all right, with a $700 snorkel kit on it, I'm really asking myself, what is this guy thinking? You know what I mean? Because I know full well that he can't actually use that snorkel. I know that full well because you can see the rest of the vehicle isn't modified for that kind of stuff, all right? So if that's just what you like to do, that's fine, but you're a mall crawler. I'm here to tell you, don't make that be one of the first mods you do. Where are you wheeling? Are you really going to cross rivers in your daily Jeep? I'm telling you right now, if you need to get to work on Monday in your Jeep, don't go crossing rivers with it on Saturday, because you're just asking for trouble. No matter how many snorkels you put on there, it's a waste of money. It's an absolute waste of money, all right? Yes, it looks cool, but you could put that money somewhere so much better. Let's talk about lifts real quick, all right? This comes up on the forums all the friggin' time. Every time I do one of these things, there's a plane up there, you know? I'll wait. It's actually really hard to find a quiet place to do one of these podcasts. There's always somebody riding a dirt bike in the woods, or an air conditioner's going, or a plane up top. You can make a sound room, maybe. I wish it was cool. If it would cool down, I could go back and do them in the Cherokee. That's like the best spot, 'cause it's nice and quiet. I don't have to worry about anybody, but it's too hot to be sitting in a car in Jersey right now. All right, let's talk about lifts real quick. This comes up on the forums all the time. like I said in the beginning, hey, I just got my first WJ and I want to lift it, what should I do? And all the old heads come out and they say, hey man, look at the IRO 3-inch lift, look at the Clayton lift, look at this lift, and they say, oh, never mind, I found a budget lift that's got 2-inch pucks and you know, Skyjacker 7000 shocks. I'm gonna get that for 90 bucks. And everybody on the forum tries to tell them, no, don't do it, you're wasting your money, you're gonna regret it, you're gonna grow out of it before it's even fully installed. And lo and behold, they do it, and a few months later they're back asking, all right, what's a good real lift? You know what I mean? And they've wasted money, they've wasted time, and they possibly screwed up their vehicle. Here's why. A budget lift, for those that don't know, instead of getting new springs that are taller or have a higher spring rate, you get these little rubber or hard plastic pucks that go in between your body and the spring, and they have the effect of lifting your vehicle, all right? But what they don't offer is any more spring travel, any more flex, and they hurt your ride quality significantly, right? The other problem is these things always come with cheap shocks that are crazy hard at first, but then in 3 months they blow out, and then you got no shocks. And these lifts, these budget lifts, also don't take into account the other things that need to be changed, all right? Transfer case drops, control arm geometry, sway bar links, track bars, all right? You wanna know why all these people out there have death wobble? Because you lift your vehicle and you don't address your track bar. Now your wheels are sitting off to one side, and anytime you go over a bump over 30 miles an hour, you're shaking the whole vehicle, all right? A budget lift is just that. It's a cheap lift, and you get what you pay for in life, all right? Don't let anybody ever tell you different. Don't waste your money on a crappy lift. Yeah, a good lift is expensive, all right? But you know what else a good lift is? It's good. It's good. It's complete. All right, it's going to have new sway bar links. It's going to have possibly control arms depending on how high you're going. It's going to have a transfer case drop to keep your you know, drive line in check there. It may have track bar relocation. It may have a new track bar. All right, this is all stuff you need. Brake lines. You probably are, depending on how large you're going, you're going to need brake lines. All right, longer brake lines. Good shocks. Spend money on good shocks. They're not that expensive. Go get some Bilsteins. I've never met anybody who put Skyjacker shocks in and didn't regret it, like, immediately. All right, and that's the thing of it. If you're lifting your vehicle, clearly you're doing it because you want to use it for something that your stock vehicle couldn't do. The problem with a budget lift is when you go to actually put it in that high stress situation, off-road and rock crawling, whatever, you're gonna beat up other parts of your vehicle, and you're gonna ruin your vehicle. You see it happen all the time. People put crappy lifts in, they put incomplete lifts in, they don't put lifts in right, and the vehicle takes a toll, and now your vehicle's kind of a hunk of junk. You can't drive it on the road anymore because it's got death wobble, and it turns out it's not that good off-road because you bought a crappy cheap lift. Save your money, get a good lift, and get the size lift you want. You see people all the time, they put a 2-inch lift in, and then 6 months later, they want a 4-inch lift. All right, just get the 4-inch lift off the bat. Yeah, you're gonna have to save up a bit. They might be $1,000, $1,500. If you're going long arms on something, you may be spending $2,000. But that's the name of the game, man. Welcome to Jeeping. it's expensive. That's why they say Jeep. Well, you know what Jeep stands for, right? Just empty every pocket. It's the truth, man. It is. Yeah. Don't buy crappy lift. The last one I want to talk about is kind of an opinion thing. I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying think about it, all right? I've built a lot of Jeeps, all right? The one Jeep that I did it right on, in my opinion, meaning I had the cash and I had the time and I had the know-how to do it, is my WJ, the one I still have. There are things on there that I did that I wish I had never done, though, all right? And one of them is I covered and converted the thing with LEDs, all right? Everything's LEDs with the exception of the headlights and the bottom tail lights, but the reverse lights, the work lights, the front lights, the fog lights, even the dash and the HVAC lights inside are all LEDs, and I wish I hadn't done it. It's a gimmicky thing, and you know, it's like the thing to do right now. Light bars, 50-inch curved light bar, light bars on light bars on light bars. It's just that it's a gimmick. It's a waste of time, and I'll give you a couple reasons why. First of all, LEDs are cheap right now. Right? I have yet to find a good brand of LEDs. One where in 6 months there isn't fog on the inside of the lenses and a couple of the little pods are burnt out, all right? Or the wires are so, I had one, the wires are so insignificant, they would get so hot and melt. They didn't use the right gauge wire for the actual like pigtail coming off the light. Another problem with LEDs is this. If you've never driven through a snowstorm with LEDs on and you want to know what it's like, Google Millennium Falcon Hyperdrive. And now you will know what it looks like. The problem is this. LEDs are so bright and the quality of light is such that they reflect back at you like crazy. They reflect off snow, they reflect off rain, they reflect off fog. Forget about it. If you're ever driving in fog with an LED on, you can't see anything. All you see is this bright mist in front of you. They don't penetrate through stuff. All right, they're not good for driving, plain and simple. They're really not. All right, if you have a clear night and you got no obstacles in your way, yeah, then they're good. The light gets way out there and it's really nice and bright. But if there's anything, I mean, there are times even a street sign, it hits like a yield sign and it just blinds you if it hits you just right. They're real bad for reflecting, and it makes them unsafe and not useful for driving. I wish I had never gone near LEDs. In the future, what I'm going to do, save my pennies. Instead of buying 5 sets of $20 LEDs, I'm going to go out and buy 1 good set of KC lights or Hellas, you know, with conventional bulbs, something you can change if it breaks. Again, I'm not saying wholeheartedly don't do LEDs, but just think about it. If you drive someplace where you get snow and fog, I don't know if you're going to like it as much as you think you're going to like it, all right? I want to end this video on a positive note. I did a lot of bashing and probably made a lot of enemies in this video. Here's what I think you should do. The very first thing, day one, you bring the ZJ home from the used car lot. It's in the driveway. You know full well that you want to make a weekend warrior out of this. Do yourself a favor. Put recovery points on the front and the back. And you don't have to buy an expensive bumper to do this. Go and get yourself a 2-inch hitch for the front and a 2-inch hitch for the back. All right? They go into stock holes on the frame. You can get each for about $100. If you have a unibody Jeep, you know, your ZJ, XJ, WJ, whatever, it adds some rigidity to the frame, you know, because now you got this big box steel at the front and the back. You have recovery points at the front and the back. You can pull somebody in any direction. They can pull you in any direction. It makes your vehicle so capable. That little Cherokee I have out there, bone stock, not lifted up, crappy bald tires that I got on it. It's more capable than some of the other Jeeps that I've built because of those recovery points. I can do so much work with it, right? And God forbid if I'm ever stuck somewhere, anybody can pull me out in any direction, and the recovery points are safe, right? It's not easy always to pull on a unibody vehicle that doesn't have something built in. You can't just link up to the frame. I know y'all have seen the video of people, there's one in particular, it's a red XJ stuck in the mud, and somebody links up to his front Dana 30, they just tie a tow rope around it and go, and the Jeep stays put and the whole front end comes out with it. Because that's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to pull from a differential, you know? You're not supposed to pull from anything unibody. You can't weld Tractor Supply tow hooks on a unibody. Go ahead and get yourself some hitches. For like $200, it's a great way to start a Jeep build. Because from there, if you want to, you can weld stuff on, you know, you can take your old bumpers off, you can do whatever, but at least if you're out there on the trail, you're not going to be the jabroni who got himself stuck, and now we can't get him out because he's got no recovery points. All right? I'm going to end it there. That's my list. I'd love to know your list. I want to know, what do you think? What is one mod you've done that you wish you'd never gone near? What's one mod that you would do first next time? All right, let me know down there in the squawk boxes. I hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it. This has been a good little break from the heat. I'm gonna get back to work now. I hope you found the video amusing, entertaining, maybe even a little educational. If you did, by all means, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, leave me that comment down there in the squawk boxes. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.